Hi guys, so this is the new Civilization game, Beyond Earth. I've played this a couple of times now, so I thought I'd run through some of the things that are new to this game and just kind of give you a bit of a lowdown on it. If we go to the single player, before you click play now, you want to have a look at the setup game. So obviously you can pick your difficulty, and there's a whole range of difficulties here. I've won it well. I've won it once on Mercury so far, and I'm not exactly an expert at Civilization, so I've found that to be a good starting point. You definitely don't really need to start on Sputnik difficulty, and I'm a little bit impatient with things sometimes, so the last couple of times I've played it through, I've had it on a faster pace, and then obviously you can choose your different map sizes. When you do that though, you get to these screens which, as far as I can remember, are new to this game. And you can choose your sponsor here. So at first it doesn't mean anything at all to you, and I think I went with Australia the first time, which is actually not a bad choice. You get these extra trade routes. Now I didn't play Civilization 5 with these trade routes on because I never got any of the DLC, but these are really, really important to the game, and I'll look at those a little bit later on. The last playthrough that I was successful on, I went with the Pan-Asian Cooperative, so this one's makes more sense. Faster production towards wonders, 25% worker speed, and then other groups have their own individual sort of specialities. So food, if you're going to develop quite quick, if you want to sort of spread around the map, then you'd want to have I can't remember which one it is, probably the Leviathan Protectorate, so that'll help you to sort of spread out a little bit quicker, but I'll just choose this one for the sake of it so we can move on. And then you can choose your colonists, so you really need to think about what kind of endgame you're going for. So the first time you play through this is almost kind of just testing it out, really. If you want to go for a science victory, then you probably want to start with your scientists. I start with engineers usually because that gives you some extra production. Obviously it's up to you just to pick it, and expansion gives you a lot more energy, a lot more health. You go for the artists, engineers just to speed up your production. And then the other thing you do is, as you land on the planets at the start of the game, you can choose a couple of other perks. The Continental Surveyor basically gives you the outline. Retrograde Thruster's good when you're sort of first starting out. I use this Tectonic Scanner because it saves you having to go through unlocking the technologies through research to actually find out where these sources are. And then you can choose your cargo, the things that you take with you to your planet. So it's sometimes good to start with a worker unit, or you can have a look at pioneering technology, or just pick whichever ones you want, essentially. I'll probably do some guides that will help you to choose the right thing later on when I'm good enough at the game to do that. And then you choose which type of world you want to choose. So Terran world's kind of just like an Earth world. And then you click start. At this point you'll start to load up the game, and then you'll get to the landing site, which I'll sort of explain briefly and talk about, and then we'll look at some actual gameplay. So here's the starting out screen, and you see the map from above, the same sort of map that you could click on in Civilization 5, and initially it's very, very similar to Civilization 5, which I wasn't annoyed about. It did have the impact of making me play it like Civilization 5, which will not work. So you choose where you want to land within this sort of sector, and there are other perks and things that can choose what sort of space, a radius you can actually pick in the end. And then when you land, you get your whatever perk it is that you decide to start with, so an explorer, and then your city's formed here. So your cities start to develop over time, and then you can start production, etc, etc. So you can pick from the list, which is similar to Civilization 5. I'm not going to go into detail in these, but it follows almost the exact same process of doing so. Health replaces the morale system from the other one, and it works exactly the same. And then with your explorer, you can send them off to go and find relics and artifacts, which again you just research like you would in a normal Civilization game, and they'll go off on their quest around the map. So here's the research screen, and I've just jumped forward to one of the games that I've been playing recently, just to show you some of the things when they're a bit more filled in, and then we can look at other gameplay things. So if you zoom out, it's kind of more of a research web, which at first really, really confusing, because I was so familiar with the old games approach to it that was really, really clear in my head, and then when you get onto this, it's all a little bit different. Obviously you don't know what these things will do at first. I still haven't figured everything out. But what is pretty clear is the first time that I played it, I just was picking things from here and thinking, oh, what's supremacy affinity, what's this? Purity affinity, I don't know what these things do. I was sort of just making my way through this confusing web, picking things that sounded cool, trying to figure out where you've got your work barge and the other things familiar from the other game, and just sort of making my way through it is kind of a mess. But really, it's you need to plot out your route in order to win in this. I wasn't even sure that I was going to lose actually, until I'd lost and didn't realise that the other teams had managed to make their way to these sort of victory endings that I'll look at in a second. So you do need to sort of plot it out, and when you start the game off you do need to think about what you're doing, which at first is nearly impossible. So that's probably a minor criticism that I've got. It's pretty difficult to fluff your way to victory in this, and some of these things you need in response to, I don't know, warfare. I started off this game without picking any of these things that help me to make weapon systems. Some of them were advanced satellites, which we'll look at in a minute, which kind of stumped me a little bit and caused a few problems, so I had to go back and pick some of them. But generally I've tried to go along this purity route. If we go back to the map, so this is the game that I've been playing recently. I've tried not to expand too much because, like the other civilizations, the other groups find this really, really hostile. It really, really affects your diplomacy. It's a bit of a nightmare if you do that. You'll run into a lot of issues. Obviously you do want to expand, but that's probably more of the war route than anything. Looking at the basic process of the game then, it's almost the same as the other game, which is a real issue because it's nothing like the other game. So if we go back to the screen where I've sort of looked through before, buildings, launch complexes to do with orbitals. I can make a lev plant if I get enough float stone and a nano pasture. And again, you just look at the little variables. So you've got your cost, which is familiar, you've got the science, the food there, production, for example. So these things have all carried over, but your approach to the game needs to be completely different in this. It's really not like Civilization 5. You can't have like a massive expansion at the start. You really need to plan out your routes. So there have been a few criticisms levied at the game that it looks like an expansion for Civilization 5, or it's not different enough, or it's not a totally new game. Well, I kind of disagree with those things almost entirely. If you like Civilization, then it's more Civilization and it's brilliant. Maybe it could have been done as an expansion, I don't know, but does it need to be done as an expansion? No, it's a new game, and to be fairly honest, all Civilization games end up looking pretty similar to me. It is better now that it's in space. I massively prefer that. I'll go over a couple of disappointments in a second, but generally this is really cool because you're making the story as you go along. You're not sort of filling in some history, and you're not meeting Gandhi and things like that. You are going down your own route, and you can make these groups be whatever you want them to be, which is, in my books, a massive positive. The thing that did disappoint me is I assumed that we were going to be colonising worlds in this, and then travelling to new worlds, and then colonising new planets, and you were going to be able to flick around to different planet systems and see different planets and things. That's because I never played Alpha Centauri, so I didn't understand the concept of it. It is the same as a Civilization game of the previous ones. You're just on a planet and you are making a civilization. So initially I was a bit disappointed by that, but really this is the game that I wanted to play anyway because it's Civilization. So we'll look at some of the things that are different. Orbital view. You can send up satellites. Now I've not really done too much with this, but you can see where it's coloured in over here. That means there's a satellite above. So you can have things like solar collectors, which help to boost your food production, and you can have, if I look at the research, I haven't yet made it in this game, but you can have something called a planet carver, as well as other satellite technologies which are pretty cool against defence. This one's an attack, so you can set up an orbital satellite above someone else's city, over your own city, and then it essentially just shoots a massive laser beam down that pretty much lays waste to anything in its path. So as far as defence goes, it's absolutely awesome, and it's cool because it adds some extra depth to the game. You can't occupy the same slots as other people if they've got satellites, so you need to consider whether or not you're going to be able to put one in the heat of the moment. If you're fighting, you need to consider your coverage and also defence. It adds a new layer of defence. If an orbital just appears above you, suddenly if you go to war it can be a massive issue because you can't defend. Other new things, quests and victories. So there are now more developed quests, which they're still just written things, but every now and then you'll get an objective or a quest will come up, and sometimes they're story driven, sometimes they're just sort of little extras just that you need to do. So destroy alien nests. I can't do that because I'm not attacking the aliens in this one, but you go and do that and it unlock things. It unlock bonuses like to diplomacy, or it would give you these affinities, which we'll look at in just a moment. just to boost those up. Now, in addition to that, you actually can see what your victories are. I can't really remember if the last one had these in, but you can read about the victories and what you need to do. So it tells you all these different missions. I haven't had all of these victories yet, but the ones where you can bring people to the planet, you can send people back home, you can change the planet into Earth, and it also tells you how people are actually doing in terms of their progress, if they've made any of these sort of buildings that you need to do in order to win the game, which doesn't tend to happen until your affinity is high enough up. So to unlock these things in the research, I'll show you one example. I think I might have actually already unlocked this one. There it is. So the Exodus Gate. So I can build this at the moment, but I need to have a level 13 in purity. So in order to do that, then I need to try and focus on making sure that my research is based around these purity things, which adds an extra layer to the game, which I totally missed the first time, thinking it was similar to the old ones. So I need to try and focus my attention on this in order to get these victory conditions to be met, as well as considering finance, as well as considering what I should be doing for scientific research. So it does add a considerable layer of depth to the game, which is just a positive as far as I'm concerned. So the purity one is essentially, as far as I remember, it's trying to sort of make it be your planet. Supremacy is kind of being one with machines and sort of technology, and the harmony one is kind of just changing to be part of the planet, as far as I know yet, because I haven't gone down all of the routes into detail. But those things are more about, you know, belonging with this new planet instead of trying to change anything into what you want. If we look around, we can see these other things, which is called miasma. This kind of blocks off maps, and you can deal with this in different ways by unlocking technology. That adds more depth to it for your explorer units, which is fantastic because that's extra detail. Instead of barbarians, I'm just looking around the map now to see if I can find any aliens, but I can't seem to see any. These guys here have pretty much terminated all of the aliens. The aliens, basically, they have little nests. At first I thought they acted like barbarians, and I attacked them, and if they get near a city it tells you to attack them, which is fair enough, but you don't have to do it at all. So it's a little bit of a mistake to not kind of clearly tell you this in the beginning of the game, but you can coexist with these aliens, and I usually send my explorers around the map just exploring willy-nilly, and everybody's absolutely fine with it. Nobody attacks me. The aliens are pretty consistent. They do have a little bar, so if you look at where this is purple here,
morality is measured by the
cool, I made a robot suit, that's awesome. And here's my affinity's gone up. I'll come back to that in a sec. My affinity's gone up.
Before us,
sometimes you get additional unlocks for that as well, and it lets you upgrade your vehicles so you can choose different routes depending if you're going on supremacy or harmony. These adapt to different ways, and then of course you can choose perks for it, which again, just more detail, more depth. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's a considerably deeper game than Civ 5, but I didn't play it with any of the DLC, even though I wanted the gods and kings, etc. I just didn't bother in the end because it came too late. So perhaps this is something that was in the other, but I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, for this though, it's all brand new to me. So if I go back to the aliens, you can coexist peacefully with them. If you attack them or you do things get in their space, then they will start to attack you. I've just sent my explorers around. You can see evidence of things that I've unlocked quite freely, just to move about the map, and other nations will be happy with you if you speak to other people. It's just like the other civilizations, and you can deal. Again, diplomacy for me is just not very good. I don't know if I'm just an idiot when it comes to diplomacy, but the best I can this is the best I've pretty much ever done. I had a whole bunch of friends on it, which is the first time that's ever happened. People declare war on you for doing one thing. At least it kind of seems to list it clearly. I'm a warmonger now because somebody attacked me. Great, that's brilliant. I just attacked them and then fought them off, so now I'm a bad person and everyone hates me. But at the start I kind of kept myself to myself, didn't expand too rapidly, and it seems to work out. Again, I just think that diplomacy is a bit of a trap. I think it's a little bit rubbish, and they haven't really addressed it enough for my liking in this. Virtues works the same as the other sort of, I can't remember what it was called, it might have even been called Virtues. along another progression, except there seem to be nice branches, and then for each route that you get to choose bonuses. So there is an incentive not to just power through one. It works in rows and it works in columns as well, so there's no incentive to just power through one. You can kind of space out your unlocks if you want to, and then these again just unlock typical things in Civilization fashion, just to extra health, like a trade unit, trade routes. So one's knowledge, science route, industry for building things. I've picked these because of the classes that I picked at the start of the game. You have to do that in this game, otherwise there's no victory. You can't just suddenly decide, oh, I'm going to start with an industrial nation and build that for a bit and then change to pick some military might. It just won't work. And I'll play around with these and perhaps produce a guide just to explain a little bit more. And again, if you unlock a lot of them in the same row, then you get additional bonuses as it goes through technologies, etc, etc. So that works the same as before. This is new for me. I mean, this again could have been adding a DLC to the previous games, but I've never seen it. So you can get covert ops once you unlock networks, which is a research science. You can send people off to go and do missions. So I can reassign these from my cities. At the moment they're like counterintelligence, stopping other nations to spying on me. If I send somebody over to Citadella, their intrigue level is really high, so it means that it'll be quite easy for me to be able to steal technology from them. In this one here I'm stealing science, and there's a chance that it won't work, there's a chance I'll be found, there's a chance that I'll just get away with it perfectly, and then I can pick the next missions to do. Obviously it affects diplomacy if you do that, but to be fairly honest with diplomacy, I've never managed to make people not hate me in Civilization, so it's kind of like real life for me there. Upgrades, we've already looked through that one, and quests and victories is the other features that I've looked at. The units at first just look like upgrades of the old Civilization, and yes they are. Food, workers, they all work similarly. Rail tracks in this one are called like lev rails or maglevs or something. Everything else works the same. Military troops, I've not been doing too many combat, well, I've not tried for a combat victory yet at all. I tried for scientific, and then I don't know what I'm going to end up with here. I'm going to just try and finish with this purity one, so bring humans to this planet. So I'm trying to avoid combat, but I've got loads of military at the moment just because this idiot decided that he wanted to have a go, which he immediately regretted. Again, artillery and everything, it works the same, except you're not upgrading from archers. They're advanced as it is, and then you unlock specific perks for them, which is almost identical as far as I'm concerned. It's just the core structure of the game that is different, and your approach to it has to be considerably more measured, otherwise you will not be successful whatsoever. So as far as I'm concerned with this game, I think it's absolutely fantastic, and when I got it on Steam I think it was only about £30, so I sold some CSGO weapon skins and just picked it up for quite a good price. I've already put, in the space of 2 days, which is probably a bad thing, I've probably already put about 20-30 hours into it, which is a little bit embarrassing. But it just is a testament to how good it is, and it really did take me a full playthrough to kind of understand even slightly what I should be doing on it, which is either frustrating or you just take it as a lesson, which I did. I was a little bit miffed because it's in true Civilization style. You've lost. I didn't even realise I was losing. I thought I was doing really, really well. You've lost. The end. And then you have to restart again, and that's when I sort of considered some of these extra things, which I'll probably do a little guide on, like I say, just to give a little bit of help. You know, for example, using trade routes, which I hadn't even considered before because I'd never seen these in a Civilization game, but you can trade with your own cities, which is production of food, or you can try and balance the outgoing with the ingoing, other colonies. Obviously you want to try and foster diplomacy between other cities so that they will actually support you and give you a better deal, so that the things that you get out of it are better than the things you have to put in, otherwise it would be totally pointless. So you set up your trade route here, and then doing that will improve the stats that you've got and will bring more things into your cities. So that was new to me. You do need to consider your positioning, not just between your cities but to other ones. And when new small nations, let me try and find one on the map, like Farbase 1 for example, these provide 5 energy and 5 science, so whoever gets them first, whoever finds them first, gets that trade route, which is brand new, and without it, you're not going to succeed. So you have to take the first playthrough as this kind of lesson, which, as I've just said, is either a good thing. It seems very Civilization-esque to me to have to go through that grueling experience, but at the same time, the second playthrough you're so much more focused, and that is the real game, and that part is absolutely fantastic. All in all then, as far as a Civilization game goes, this is probably, I've dabbled with the older games very briefly years ago, so my main experience is Civilization 5. It really depends on how you feel about being in space. I think that this is significantly better than Civilization 5 just because of the extra depth. I like the fact you're not living through a history that's already kind of happened and you're doing your own spin in it. Your story is your own story. You are doing sort of advancing the future from a science victory in the last game. You're taking the story where you want to go. All the people are not linked to anything historical. They're all the new people. They've got their own personalities. How you act, how you make these nations is totally up to you. I think that's a lot better than just playing through, you know, as Gandhi or whatever. It just doesn't, or Elizabeth. I never really got that. I enjoyed it. I liked the game, but that bit never clicked. This clicks a lot more with me, but I do prefer science fiction anyway. So it's up to your own personal preference. As far as the criticisms for it being like Civilization 5 go, I mean, I've touched on it, but I really don't have any problem with that whatsoever. I didn't buy Civilization Beyond Earth to play a completely different experience to Civilization. That seems insane to me. That would be like buying Halo 2 and expecting it to be a completely different game to Halo 1. I did think it was going to be a bit more far-reaching. I thought we were going to be travelling to different planets, and probably my fault for not looking into it, like travelling to different worlds, colonising different worlds, and you could maybe flick from one to another and see how your civilizations are going on there, and like can do trade resources from planet to planet. I think that would be an amazing idea for a game. That's what I thought I was getting, but you're on one planet, and the process is similar, but the core mechanics are totally different. You have to learn a lot more. This is a much better thought out game than Civilization 5. The research alone is a terrifying, overwhelming experience, and it's going to take you hours and hours to get this completely nailed down. Same with the diplomacy, which is the virtues, which is a little bit more, which is a little bit easier to follow because there's not as many variables. I haven't touched might and prosperity though at all yet, and then the energy system works the same. So familiar at first, but a very different game. I'm very impressed with it. I recommend that anyone buy this. I sort of addressed all those criticisms really, and I think that the positives of this completely outweigh it. Like I say, I'll be trying to do some tips and advice just to get you started if that's what you want to do. Otherwise, I just recommend getting stuck in, exploring everything, going straight through the research, just having a look at every sort of aspect you can do, playing around with the different races, the different groups, the different sponsors, and just getting stuck into it, because there's a lot of depth and there is a lot of game for your money. To say that it could have been done as an expansion, technically maybe, but as far as the game goes, this is a completely different game, and it's an absolutely fantastic one at that. Thanks for watching.